Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the James Bond Retrospective. Mark Bridge, and I'm here with Zach Wojner.
That's me.
Now, today we are talking about the second in the Pierce Brosnan James Bond saga. Tomorrow Never Dies, the follow-up after GoldenEye, and I will say,
1997.
Yeah, it came out in 97, December of 97, 2 years after, which is par for the course for a normal release for James Bond.
Like
And
the old days.
and it's funny, it came out and it doesn't feel rushed, right? It doesn't feel like, oh, we have a quick turnaround, let's get to it, I mean, it has a different director, different writing team, I believe. So yeah, they were able to sort of handle this thing without having to, take a break and jump headfirst. So December 1997, this film came out. Anytime I think of 97, a couple of things that come to mind was Titanic. And I think, wasn't a Mortal Kombat out around that time too? Was it Mortal Kombat 2 or 3? One of them?
Yeah, one was 95, two was 97.
Yeah, so yeah. And I think that was, at the time, the best Mortal Kombat. So it was like, 97 was definitely a great year for me. I think this year I graduated high school too. I believe so.
Well, two was the bad one. Or 97 was the bad one.
Mortal Kombat 2? No, I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about no. I'm talking about the game. Mortal Kombat, the game, wasn't 2?
Oh.
No, hell no. I was.
So that was 97, 98 was Mortal Kombat 4.
Oh, really? Damn.
Mortal Kombat 3 was 95 though.
Okay, gotcha. Because I know 93. So 93 was. Wait a minute. Sorry, I'm doing.
But those games dominated the arcades. The whole decade.
Yeah. So, let me see. Sorry, I'm curious now. My bad. Oh yeah, 93. You're right. Dang. Okay. All right, back to the Bond. Like I said, the top of this is the second Bond for Pierce, and I think I like it better than GoldenEye. Maybe. By a smidgen.
I think it's a tremendously underrated movie, but it's also one that's really close to my heart because it's my first one.
First one in general, or in theater?
Saw.
Oh wow! Oh, interesting.
Ever. I was 6 years old, and my cousins took me to the movies. Shout out Louisa, Michelle, Anise, and I had never heard of James Bond, but when I told my mom after, she was like, "Oh my God, I love James Bond." And I didn't know that my mom was a huge James Bond fan, and then I was hooked ever since.
Nice. Definitely.
Funny, I got to interview Pierce Brosnan for a movie he did called The Last Rifleman, which is really good. Shout out, everyone should go see it. But at the end of the interview, I got to tell him I was 6 years old, saw Tomorrow Never Dies. I was just a little kid, but I came out of the movie theater a different person than the one who went in. And it's funny because in hindsight, he's talked about not being a huge fan of making the movie and all the behind-the-scenes troubles that it had. But, when you're a kid, or just, not even a kid, but just an observer watching the movies, all that stuff kind of fades away. Because, I didn't make the movie. I just got to see the end product, and I really liked it.
Yeah, it's definitely an improvement. Not like GoldenEye was bad, but it just felt like it hit the ground running right from the opening with the sort of sale of all these arms that these terrorists are trying to buy, and The British Navy sending the missiles straight there, and it turns out a Russian MiG has a goddamn nuclear arsenal on there, so it'll cause a catastrophic destruction, and then Bond has to, stick on his feet and goes commando and destroys every one of them, flies the MiG, and it was a totally dope sequence. I just love that whole cold opening, one of the best ones.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Let's talk a little bit about the cast here. We have, of course, Pierce is back as Bond. And we have
much more comfortable as Bond.
Yeah.
This time around, and better dressed. He loses the kind of preppy sweaters that he has. His hair's a little bit shorter, a little bit more reined in.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just a lot cozier. I'd also say there's maybe a little bit less characterization for Bond in this one, which isn't necessarily a plus. There's a little bit with him in Paris that I really like, but this is very much Pierce getting to be the straight, just James Bond.
Yeah.
Without the baggage, and it's nice to see just I think that in the Craig era, we kind of took for granted the archetype of James Bond, but getting to see just a straightforward, no frills 007 adventure, it's kind of a nice reminder of what this series is.
Yeah, it's super action packed. Probably every 5 minutes, there's an action sequence in this movie. It's pretty and just elaborate too. They really wanted to do some really creative things action wise with this film, and Bond really sold it. Bond really took charge, or Pierce rather took charge of the character and just really went in and was yeah, I'm an action hero too, bitch.
Yeah.
And then of course we have Jonathan Pryce as our bad guy, as a media mogul, which is really it definitely speak to our time now, which is ironic. This movie was made in 96, came out in 97.
Well, that's just how old Rupert Murdoch is.
Yeah, right. And it's about his character is basically this media mogul that has a gigantic media company that, instead of reporting the news, they're creating the news. They're manipulating the world in order to be the first to report on breaking news. Which, as bad guys goes, it's more dangerous but less, I guess, threatening. On the outward, you don't really think of a media titan as somebody to be afraid of, but in reality, someone with that kind of power is more terrifying than your simple muscle bound, mustache twirling bad guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's definitely kind of the 90s, the hip, realistic 90s version of any number of the classic Bond villains, who aren't necessarily physical threats, I'm gonna punch the world, but who are I'm gonna do some harebrained scheme, and I've got my big muscle guys behind me, and I'm going to profit, and it's really complicated, but don't worry about it. Like a Hugo Drax from Moonraker. He's definitely in the same lane as those guys.
Definitely.
And I think he's it's funny because it's almost his catchphrase is the word delicious, and he gives such a delicious performance. He's very hammy in a very good way. I mean, I can't imagine anyone seeing him and being like, no, it's not enough. He's got one of my favorite scenes in my favorite Bond moments in the whole series is him when he's it's like his introduction scene when he's talking to his guys on the different TV monitors. They're like and he says he explains the whole Devonshire situation, sinking the British ship, and has his scheme, and he ends it by saying, "There's no news like bad news." And right before the camera cuts away, he gives like a crazy eyebrow tweak, and it's
Right.
just like a perfect. Like if you watch that scene again, it's just beautiful.
Nice.
It's just Jonathan Pryce owning the space in a way that only a Bond villain can get away with.
Right. Right. Yeah. That was Yeah, I really like his portrayal as Elliot Carver. And yeah, it's definitely very contemporary in terms of what's going on right now, with the news media being such a big tool of oppression going on. So yeah, it definitely has a plot that resonates now, and I appreciate that for the movie. So I think, like, out of all the four Bond films, it's the least talked about, right? Like GoldenEye, which I would say is probably the most talked about, and then the second would be Die Another Day. But because Die Another Day was like considered a bad movie, it is talked about more than the other two. And then while watching this movie, you know what? I know Kojima loves James Bond, and you see a lot of the older James Bond reflected in his games. But this movie, for some reason, reminded me of Metal Gear, but like the sort of his look. Like, for instance, the stealth boat just reminded me of something that would exist in a Metal Gear game. And even sort of the David Arnold music. I know I'll probably touch on music later, but like just listening to the music and seeing this tech, it was like it gave off that Metal Gear vibe, which is probably what I would say mainly Kojima got inspired from.
Yeah, I can see a little bit of that, and definitely in the music, there's parts, especially actually on the stealth boat.
Yeah.
I feel like that the motif for the stealth boat has a lot of those Harry Gregson Williams, big echoey drums.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was, I dig the plot. The technology that was in it is, even though you could say the tech is, very elaborate, but it felt grounded still. Which is what it's like. It's stuck between your older Bond films and the Daniel Craig era Bond movies, so it's like a good balance when it comes to some of the tech. And then I guess we'll continue talking about a little bit more about the actors. You have Judi Dench back as M. She has a little bit more to do in this movie than she did in the first one. She's in a lot more scenes. Still don't know much about her character. Then it's still M, so they're still relegated to background characters, glorified background characters. But she is in more scenes in this one. And then you have Samantha Bond back as Miss Moneypenny. Also has a lot more scenes than her previous. Than the previous film. Not more. There's a lot less. I don't think there was even a scene of her flirting with Bond, but the conversation while he was with the Danish teacher, or what is that Danish? Was she Danish?
Yeah.
Yeah. Danish instructor, where he was, learning conolingus. There was a little short, like, ribbing between Miss Moneypenny and Bond, but that was it. For the most part, is Miss Moneypenny played sort of the secretarial role to M, sort of giving out information as we needed it, but still not, a part of the plot per se, but more to do in this movie. And then Desmond Llewellyn is back as Q. Was this his last one? He is probably not, right?
Oh no, he's got one more.
Okay, so yeah, back as Q, showing off some cool new tech, including a new car. Okay, I gotta talk about this car for a little bit. I did not like it. The way it looks. I like it for the tech that was in it, but the way it looks was like, wait, because after seeing, so it's like we saw GoldenEye and saw how dope that car looked, but we didn't see it do shit, right? And then the scene is about to reveal this in this movie was about to reveal the new Bond car, and it's like, all right, I'm sure they're gonna correct their mistake of the first one and give us a action sequence with the car, right? But then when the box dropped, I was like, what the you know what I'm saying? Because I guess it looks just like a normal car, like you know, there's nothing special about it. It's a BMW. I'm sure it was for the time in 1997. It was a very coveted car. You know what I'm saying? The brand is BMW, but it just looks standard as fuck, man. I was like, what the hell is this? But it has some cool features in it, including being able to remote control car. That's one of the things I do remember about this movie, even though I saw it a long time ago. I didn't remember plot points in it, but I do remember there was at least one Bond movie that had a remote control car in it, and there was a scene of him controlling the car with a remote, and it was like, yeah, it's this movie, and I was like, oh shit, that was dope.
Yeah, no, I mean that chase is fantastic.
Yeah. And then we have our two Bond ladies. You know, a Bond movie usually has two, maybe three Bond girls, but I think for the most part, it's standard two. The first one being Terry Hatcher. Very, very awesome to see Terry in this movie. I'm a fan from you know, Lewis and Clark days, even though one half of that cast is now Nazi, but you know, I won't hold that against her. And then she was in Desperate Housewives, which is another favorite show of mine. Yo, I used to watch a bunch of television shows, man. Even shows that people wouldn't think I would watch, but I love Desperate Housewives, and she was a major part in that.
I watched the first season of that show, and I liked it.
Yeah. So yeah, she's a Bond girl. She plays the wife of Elliot Carver, and she was an ex-flame of Bond. And she still looks the same. That's the thing too. Is like it's one of that wild ladies that don't age, man.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, no, she's an all-timer, and I think she's really good in this. I know she got some flack for her performance in this,
Right.
but I think that she does a fine job as like a kind of femme fatale trapped in a loveless marriage. You know, getting one last burst of excitement or dying tragically.
Yeah, and that's one of the thing about, okay, if you have two Bond girls, one usually dies. Usually, I guess.
Yeah. Something that's kind of held against this movie, I think unfairly, is how pretty standard it is.
Right.
So, you know, I think if you had a Bond movie that was just called Bond movie, or like a Bond script, that every Bond movie is a variant of a Bond script, this would be that script.
Yeah, but as far as
very straightforward.
But as far as the first Bond girl in a movie dying, in terms of like, he meets a Bond girl, she dies, he goes to and meets another Bond girl. Her death was not as painful as others, right? Like you had was it Goldfinger, that all painted gold? She suffocated because she couldn't breathe. That was Goldfinger, yeah. Right? And then you have Quantum of Solace with the tar. And was it Skyfall or Spectre that had the Bond shooting the other one, shooting one in the head?
Skyfall.
Yeah. And yeah, as far as like death is considered, like hers is bad because number one, you didn't see it, and number two, it's like she still looked very sort of, put together nicely, like a very photograph-esque, being lying on the bed with the silk sheets wrapped around her and looking peaceful as she lays there dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the news report says that she died of a drug overdose.
Yeah, and there's a scene where she's talking to Bond, that kind of, and it's just in the performance of it that hints at his past, where she's talking about why did he leave? Is it because she got too close? And you see in his face, like, it's, if you know the whole story of his marriage and how she died and thing, and you have that in your head, you're like, maybe maybe she's like the closest to ever get to him since his wife, you know what I mean? And that probably scared him.
There's definitely some of that. We get a little bit, like you said, this is like the one element that the movie has that elevates it beyond, like, just from a scripting level, not like the movie as a whole, which I hold in very high esteem. Just in terms of the script, his relationship with Paris is like the X factor.
Yeah.
That, after she dies, it's not like the movie doesn't still rock, but it definitely is on autopilot from there. Like, you're just along for the ride. Like, for better or worse, it is the shortest Bond movie in a really long time. It's like it might be the first one, period, that's under 2 hours. And only by a few minutes, but still. Right. And it just, rockets from set piece to set piece with, the after Paris dies, it's just a roller coaster ride, which for some people is not necessarily the best thing, but for other people, hell yeah, let's rock and roll.
Hell yeah, for real. Definitely kept me on my toes after that whole sequence. Just watching it, I was like, oh my god, it's like, it doesn't let up, and I love it for it.
Yeah. Plus, her dying triggers kind of maybe my favorite scene in the movie with Dr. Kaufman, played by that Italian guy, Vincent Schiavelli.
Yeah, I think the only movie I've probably seen him in that I can remember. I'm sure I've seen him in other stuff, but Ghost. He was like the train ghost in Ghost.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
He was in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. He was in, ironically, I suppose might be the word, the Andy Kaufman biopic.
Oh, right, yeah.
Down on the Moon.
Yeah. But yeah, his character is hilarious though in Tomorrow Never Dies. I'm an expert in that field.
Yeah. His accent is insane, and he gets to set up, one of the best one-liners. I'm just a professional doing a job. Me too. Bang.
Yeah. And then now we can introduce the second Bond girl, Waylon, played by Michelle Yeoh. I think this is probably one of her first major film productions. And she looked
on this side of the ocean. Hell yeah.
Yeah. And she looks young, man. I mean, she looks good now, but still, she was young in that one. It's like she was almost a baby. Seeing her.
Yeah. I got to interview her in person.
Right.
For, last Christmas. I have a picture of us together.
I think I remember seeing that one. Yeah.
Yeah, she's still absolutely gorgeous, and we got to talk about this movie too. At the end, I was just like, basically the same story with Pierce. And she was like, hell yeah, she gave me a high five. I was hoping for a big old hug, but I got a high five.
Hey, still good, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, this and I think at that point, based on what she said behind the scenes, she's only been doing martial arts for 12 years, which is still a lot, but still new-ish compared to like how long other people have been practicing the art.
Yeah, she had a dance background.
Yeah, she was ballet, and then she also was Miss World, one of the pageants, beauty pageant.
That's funny.
Yeah, but yeah, it's funny that in the beginning of the movie, when she's introduced around the same time as Paris, but the movie was still in the transition of being full on straight up action. And you just had your little talking moments. You sparingly saw Waylon's character, and for the most part, it focused on Paris. But as soon as William became the focal point of the story, that's when the actions just fucking took off. Like, holy shit. And I think this is probably one of the first Bond films. Again, you can correct me if I'm wrong. To have the Bond character, I guess, Living Daylights, where it was a CIA agent and she was like busting guns and shit. But this one, she was tough as shit, man. She was beating the fuck out of all the enemies who was coming at her through her martial arts and stuff like that. I don't know if there's any other Bond girl that kind of could stand toe to toe with her, at least prior to that film.
The closest, at least the ones that's not an outright villain, would be Anya from The Spy Who Loved Me, who is, an agent, Soviet agent.
Right.
But she has her moments here and there, but she mostly just gets captured.
Yeah.
As opposed to Wayland, who is fully, fully an action girl.
Yeah. And they basically tried to describe her as if she would have been like a 00 as well. Like, if she could if you switch the perspective of the movie, she would just be as important as Bond in terms of like the adventure Bond goes on and sort of like the take charge action that she kind of springs into whenever she's on screen. So yeah, I definitely appreciate her role, and she definitely kicks some ass, I gotta tell you.
Yeah, no, she's very cool.
Yeah, and one of the scenes that I remembered is funny. Like I said, I only saw this probably the third time I saw this movie, and they're spaced out. Like, first time I saw the movie is when it just came out and I had it on tape. The second time is when I bought this collection that I have. I watched it, and then years later, now I'm rewatching it. But the one scene I remember from it was the bike chase scene with the helicopter and everything. I remember that sequence, but you know what's funny? For some reason, I remembered it. Anytime I remember that scene, it's always at night. So it's like a shock. It's like, oh shit, it's daytime. Okay, my bad. For this reason, I just like always picture her on the bike, the chase scene, but it's night instead of, and there's a lot more orange because of like the lighting. I don't know. It's just, the mind is a crazy thing. I'm telling you. But yeah, it takes place in the day. Go ahead, sorry.
I don't have that problem with this movie because it's probably the Bond movie I've seen more than any other. Because I used to watch it on VHS all the time as a little kid.
Yeah.
I didn't even need to watch it before this podcast. I did.
Right.
I didn't need to because I've got basically the whole thing memorized.
Yeah. It's a dope action movie. From start to finish. I think it box office wise, it didn't make more than GoldenEye. It's so the budget was 110, and the box office was 339 worldwide. Let me see, GoldenEye. GoldenEye made 356. So I guess GoldenEye made more money, and the budget was lower. And this film is directed by what's his name? Roger Spottiswoode, which I don't know him, but I tried to look up what his stuff he did, and there's only a few things that he made that I saw. So he did Stop or My Mama Shoot.
We won't hold that against him.
He also did The Sixth Day with Arnold. And he did Turner and Hooch. Now that movie, I don't think I've ever watched. I just always knew about it, but I don't think I've ever watched that movie to completion, like from start to end. But I've always heard of Turner and Hooch. So he directed that movie.
Well, it says here he was an editor on a bunch of Sam Peckinpah movies. Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid and One of my all-time favorites, Straw Dogs.
Oh, word. He was credited as a writer on 48 Hours, the first one. Um, but yeah, nothing too notable. I think the last thing he directed was in 2021. Um, I don't know. It's funny, right? Like you think, but I guess that's how it was back in the day. You're essentially, if you weren't Spielberg or any of these auteurs, you were basically a journeyman director. And even if you made a big budget movie that made a lot of money, it doesn't really translate into you becoming a star director. You're just like, because back then people weren't really thinking about directors. It's like you had to be a special kind of director for you to stand out, like your Martin Scorsese's, your Spike Lee's, you Steven Spielberg's. Like there's just something about
auteur.
Yeah, so it's like, but what he did though was just like, if a director did a movie on the caliber of Tomorrow Never Dies, where it technically was awesome and the acting was on point, and that director, if it would just like be elevated to a star, like, oh yeah, let's get this man some more money and throw some more dope movies at in his way. But like back then, like as a journeyman director, you could direct the best looking movie. It's just you're a journeyman director. It's like nobody really gives a shit. You know what I mean? It's just weird. It's a weird thing to think about the last 30 years in film, how it's evolved and what makes a good director and what makes a okay director. Like an okay director now is like somebody who's making an okay movie, but an okay director back then is making some dope shit. You know what I mean? It's like, it's what the fuck.
Yeah, I'd say for this, especially considering the production and how the script was rewritten.
Yeah.
Apparently like weeks before while they were even shooting, they were still rewriting scenes on the day.
Right.
I would imagine that Spottiswoode was maybe more of a manager than a director. Kind of.
Gotcha.
I think Bond kind of maybe. I don't want to say before the days of your Feige's and stuff like that, but Bond has always been a producer-driven franchise.
That's true. That's true.
And I think in this case, especially, it was kind of a case where he just had to make sure that everything. He had to keep the train from falling off the tracks. He didn't have time to make it his own.
Yeah, that's true.
And that might be why there's so much action. It's like, the movie is kind of a vehicle for that, rather than, its own story, even.
Right.
So it has a lot of momentum, and I respect that. It's nice, and it's a change of pace. But I'd say, it overall has less character than GoldenEye.
Yeah.
But I'd say that maybe not more, but it makes up for that by having what, in my opinion, it might be the best Bond score ever.
Yeah, so David, I
Arnold.
believe this is his first Bond movie, right?
Yep, I think it might be his first movie.
Oh wow. He's, because I remember the first time I heard of David Arnold was after I saw The World Is Not Enough, and it was like I saw his name as composer, so that's like the first time I've ever heard of David Arnold.
It's not his first movie. He'd done a bunch of movies. He did Stargate and Independence Day, so he'd been around.
Oh, right. Yeah. So yeah.
But he did a record.
And it's
like a bunch of Bond remixes, and it was so good. And because of that, he was hired to do the score for this movie, and I think he just absolutely nailed it. We can go back and forth on the Eric Serra score from GoldenEye, but this one is basically just like, hey, what if we actually do a Bond score?
Yeah.
And like it's got its 90s touches. It's got its like electronic techno beats underneath,
Yeah. You're not getting away from that in the 90s, especially with Bond. But the thing is, I like it too. And apparently Moby did like a remix to it as well. But yeah, his Bond score was like it really fit with the tone of the movie, and yeah, I definitely love the score. And I actually, when he mentioned Stargate, I was like, yo, I actually love the Stargate score too. So it's like, but like I said, it was the first time because when I saw Stargate, I wasn't paying attention to like directors and writers and composers. It was just like the movie. But when I saw The World Is Not Enough, it's right around the time where I actually started to pay attention to behind the scenes stuff, because like I think at that point it was when I was kind of moving towards just being a straight filmmaker and not anything else, and then leave filmmaker. It was like when I was starting to, you know, gather my will to become a filmmaker. So I started to pay attention to stuff like that, and I saw his name in the credits, and I was like, oh shit, I actually love the score. I mean, it's pretty dope.
Yeah, and he also, so we alluded to this last week, but he wrote a theme song for the movie that was ultimately unused in the opening credits. Instead, it's saved for the end credits, and Sheryl Crow wrote a theme song that's properly used. But if you pay attention to the score,
yeah, you kind of hear
that plays over the end credits is the one that's used as the motif throughout the whole movie.
Yeah. So what was the story behind that? Why they kind of switched back to like didn't use her score? Because I was looking at a little blurb here about the score, about the songs, and that they're saying that a lot of artists, I guess, were considered for or submitted songs for the film. You know, Swan Lee, Pulp, Saint Etienne, Mark Almond, and Sheryl Crow, I guess, all submitted songs, and they chose the Sheryl Crow song, which again, it's a dope song. Even though I like the end credit song, and you might like the end credit song more than the hers version, but maybe because but maybe because I heard her version more, I guess I have a little bit more of a attachment to that version than but the end credit song sounds more like a Bond song. It sounds like it has all the elements that you would think of when you think of a Bond song, and Sheryl Crow, I think, was sort of her song started to make the transition from your typical Bond sounding song to a more like, oh, this is contemporary song. I think GoldenEye was the last song to sound like a typical Bond song until like Skyfall from Adele. But everything else between then, I guess in my opinion, felt like it's a pop song that is put in front of a Bond movie.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, there was definitely a lot of that in the 80s as well. But
even the 80s song, like A View to a Kill, you had that sort of horns brass section in the background still doing the you know what I mean, like, so it kind of gave it the identity of it being a Bond song, even though it was more of a 80s sort of poppy song. But like those songs still had, I guess, elements of Bond slapped on to as a tag to say it is a Bond song. Well, I think like Tomorrow Never Dies. I guess the dun 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 dun. I guess you could consider that a Bond.
The big brass is half a Bond, but the other half is like the groovy guitar,
right?
And like the cigar smoke filling the room, while the singer sings in the background. Like that's definitely the vibe of Tomorrow Never Dies.
Yeah, that's true.
Our song, and I do like the song. I think it's really good.
Yeah.
I just love the Katie Lang one. I don't know if there's any real like official story. I think the producers just wanted a bigger name than Katie Lang, who was, very popular, but was never, I don't know if she had any number one hits.
Yeah, she had that one song. I think I only know her for one song. Back in it, what was it? Hold on, I'll tell you right now. Songs. What was her album? What the fuck?
And Katie Lang and Sheryl Crow was definitely having a moment.
Yeah, definitely.
That
Yeah,
was
yeah.
really
Sure.
big.
Yeah, Cheryl's a much bigger artist at the time.
And you know, I love Katie Lang, but if you're gonna, you know, have a music video, I guess Sheryl Crow is more
Yeah,
hot.
easier on the eyes. Sheryl Crow, by the way, background singer for Michael Jackson. Bring Michael back in this conversation. Anyway,
We're gonna get flagged 2 episodes in a row.
yeah. So, yeah, definitely love the opening track. Now, is this the movie that started to censor the opening? Like, even GoldenEye, if you watch that opening sequence, you know, you can see some blatant nipples staring in your face. But this one, definitely, there's a, you know, the women are covered. They're very heavily silhouetted. If they're naked, you can't tell if they're naked. And I think maybe from this point on, they kind of, the opening sequence get a little bit more PG. I might be wrong.
I think that's a little. That could be a little conspiratorial, you know. I think maybe they were. I think it might just be an effect of having, you know, better cameras and better technology to make things to keep things from slipping through, keep nips from slipping.
Yeah, but
Nips.
do you think that was a thing they were thinking about back in the day? It was like, oh, let's try not to show too much nipples. Maybe like they didn't give a fuck back then, but now it moving.
Then I think that they figured, they're far away enough. They're you know,
like you know, the '90s are becoming a little bit more puritanical in terms of distinguishing the difference between an R rating and a PG-13 rating. So like now,
that's a really interesting point because speaking of nipples points, because you know the PG-13, you know, got so increasingly draconian, but in the 90s, I think there was still enough wiggle room. Like there is some blood in this movie, you know, here and there. Right. But on TV, you know, they were able to get away with a lot more. Partly, you know, there was the rise of cable and stuff, but even on network TV, like we had NYPD Blue, which was groundbreaking for showing butts.
Yeah, and I think it was like the first. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it was the first one that allowed the word shit on network television.
It wasn't the first one. It was a doctor show. I remember because I remember looking it up recently.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember what show it was, but it was like it was some hospital show.
Oh, gotcha.
But it was, you know, still a big deal when NYPD Blue did it, and and it definitely showed butts that was not kosher at the time. And then after we're gonna let Michael Jackson off the hook. After Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson's Super Bowl snafu, that's when the Bush administration's FCC was able to really crack down.
Gotcha.
And now it's only been since the rise of streaming that content has been kind of allowed again.
Yeah.
On television. But I think, yeah, it's interesting, you know, because PG-13 nowadays and, you know, post Janet Jackson was so sanitized.
I think nowadays they try to push the PG-13 close to R as much as they can without getting an R.
Yeah, but I mean, I've seen A Quiet Place. That's a PG. You know, it's like, oh, your kid gets killed. Yeah, but you don't even see it. Come on, give me a break. It's less violent than the kid getting killed in Jaws.
Shit, if you want to see some kid violence, watch the latest episode of freaking Derry. Welcome to Derry. Holy shit! No spoilers.
I haven't seen that.
But Jesus Christ. Anyway.
But yeah, so, I definitely know what you mean. I think that it's just the production getting cleaner.
Yeah.
Like literally cleaner as opposed to like content cleaner, you know?
Right.
I think just getting more slick and having more CGI better compositing and lighting, and using more like post effects rather than lighting to get the silhouette.
But
Like
even
there's
then,
like a
though,
great shot of the woman who's like silhouetted in white with like the transparent gun.
yeah. But even though I was watching the behind the scenes of that, right, and the model that they used for that, she had clothes on up to her, I guess her top above her breast, so like you could see her bare shoulders and stuff, or give the illusion that she's naked, but she wasn't. But you can, I mean, obviously in the past films that did the opening titles, those women were completely naked. Maybe they'll have a panty on, but like they could not hide that shit.
Union protections.
Probably, probably.
In the old days, they're just like get whatever desperate, sad, single, or quietly married women we can get into the studio to shoot some scenes, versus a little bit more professional sets.
I just noticed that because after seeing when I got introduced to the whole Bond universe, just pretty much watching the modern Bonds before I went back, I remember the opening sequences being sort of, normal, tame stuff. And then when I went back and watched the older films, I was like, holy shit, like, they were getting away with this? So, like, that's always been a thing with me. So it's like, I knew there was a point in time where Bond openings became a lot more tame in comparison to older ones. I just was trying to see when the shift happened during this journey, and I'm believing this is when it actually started. Like before that, even before movies, before this, I'm sure there were other films older than this that was a little bit tame in comparison, but like for the most part, most of the movies had, their openings feature very scantily clad women that you could clearly tell are naked, even if it's silhouetted, but then sometimes they fuck the silhouette, you're gonna show some titties, you know what I mean? Another interesting aspect of this movie, the cell phone that he had that controls the car is an Ericsson, which, by the way, I think Sony either purchased or merged with, and then Sony later got the rights to this movie. So I'm wondering if there was like a little seed planted with the phone that led to Sony eventually acquiring the franchise for a short period of time.
I don't think Sony ever truly actually had the rights to the older movies. I think they just distributed.
No, I'm talking about that's what I'm saying. It eventually got the rights to distribute. I think the first one they did was Casino Royale, because Sony was all over that motherfucking.
Right, Columbia distributed those.
Yeah,
but I don't think they like retroactively got theatrical rights or any kind of rights to the older ones.
Okay. But yeah, I was just wondering. Yeah, I was just wondering if the Ericsson detail was something that was, later, like the kind of connection happened later on because of that phone thing. The start of the phone led to Sony, and then building blocks. Because I think United Artists, I think at the time, was the distributor for this, for these films.
Yep.
So it went from, still MGM still had a hold on it, but I think MGM was doing the domestic release, and United Artists was the production company, and handled foreign release of the film. And speaking of release, and I mentioned at the top, like 97 was sort of like a year that stands out to me for a few things, my graduation being one of them, but it's also, and I mentioned it was also the same year Titanic came out, and I'm looking and I was like, holy shit, it actually came out the same day as Titanic. Wow. So he had Titanic to battle. I mean, it lost, but still, to be able to survive at least the juggernaut that was Titanic and make at least that much money, you gotta give it
they were both successful.
Yeah. But yeah, Titanic with a fucking woo. But yeah, came out the same year as Titanic, same day as Titanic. Yeah, so this movie, it did its thing. It's a worthy entry into the Bond franchise and worthy entry to the Pierce Brosnan Bond franchise.
Yeah, it was definitely important at the time because GoldenEye, was seen as reinventing the wheel, kind of making the case for Bond in the '90s, in the post Cold War era.
Yeah.
And then, while there were plenty of Bond movies that didn't rely on the Cold War as its backdrop, in fact, the vast majority of them, I think it was important for them to have a Bond movie after GoldenEye that was like, okay, what now?
Yeah.
It's like business as usual, baby.
Yeah, and I guess tackling media, like to think in '97 they saw the media as a potential destructive tool, which I guess if you go back to older movies like Network, I think it was called Network. No, what was it? Is it Network? About the guy who was basically he was like a radio broadcast. I mean, not radio, TV sort of news pundit, and then one day just got fed up and started telling the truth, and he became big over it, and they attributed that as like a contributing factor to the rise of things like Fox News and stuff like that, where it became more of an opinion piece instead of a news outlet. So I guess to have the foresight to say, to have the media being the bad guys in this movie is like, holy shit, man. Even then they were seeing shit like stuff that we're seeing now. Interesting. Yeah, so that's Tomorrow Never Dies. Anything else can we say about this movie? The bad guys are dope. The little German henchmen.
Yeah, I guess the only thing that's always bothered me about the movie is that I don't understand the dimensions of the stealth boat.
In terms of what? The way how it's shaped. Like maybe it's.
Yeah. I'm like, and then like they're inside it, and like there's the missile compartment. Like,
oh yes.
Like, everything must be underwater. But then they have like this huge atrium area, and I'm like, how big is this boat?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you know what? At the outside it looks small, and it's like I guess it's the
TARDIS.
Yeah, or Charlie in a Charlie factory type of thing. I guess smaller outside, bigger on the inside.
Yeah, like we can see the bridge area from the outside, and so it's like, oh, okay, the ship is really big. Like I wish that there was a scene that actually had the stealth boat next to something where we could get a proper sense of how big it is.
Yeah, because in my head I'm thinking it's smaller than the Navy ships, but then
when you're inside, it's like a huge bond layer.
Yeah, so it should be, if in reality it's probably the same size, if not bigger than the Navy ships.
Yeah,
but yeah,
so that's like my 1 decades long nitpick. Movie is that it's like how big is that ship?
But then when they get under it though, it feels small though, right? When they get under it to put the mines on the boat, on the ship, it doesn't feel as big. Like she did the whole walk. Like she got on top, took the ladder and then go across, and it doesn't. Yeah, like in reality, that probably would have took a long time for her to get to the other side. But it was like, I guess it's one of those things like, don't pay attention to it. It's like we wanted a cool looking ship, but we also wanted the interior of the ship to be as cool as the exterior, and it just didn't make sense size wise. But don't worry about it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's one of those things where you just kind of, or like where I don't know if it's me or if it's the movie, but whatever. I'm still into it.
Yeah. All right, so that should bring us to the end of discussing Tomorrow Never Dies. Now, next week we'll be tackling the movie, the first one that I saw in theaters, and the one that holds a special place in my heart because of it. The World Is Not Enough. I probably will say, I haven't seen it in a while, so hopefully when I watch it, it stands up to my original thinking that it is the best of his of the Pierce movies. Again, I may be biased, but just I remember seeing it in theaters and just like this thing just blew me away. So I'm curious to see how it holds up after watching it after such a long time.
Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see.
All right, so
Controversial one.
all right, so where can people find you, Zach?
You can find me across social media at my name, Zach Wojner, and you can read my work at Game Daily and TV Squad and Jalopnik, and even on YouTube at Final Fantasy Union.
Nice. And as for me, you can find me at Marco Bridge on Instagram and TikTok, and you can uh, in the description below you can find links to my other works as short films, comedy on Tubi, and my comic book. And speaking of which, on November 5th, hopefully it doesn't change, but on November 5th, issue 2 will be officially out for people to purchase. So yeah, and don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. And so until next time, folks, I want to say peace.
Indeed.